Salutations, episode 77, and today, we got a new challenge build for you guys. Now, today we're going to be covering the Infection. This weapon has a pretty bad reputation. A lot of people say that it's really bad. The damage number on it at face value looks pretty bad. But that dot number's pretty high, right? What, 1.2 million? Anybody? No? Okay. I mean, the dot number's high, but it's not high enough for it to really matter, especially with it being dot. Dot is inherently, like, mechanically, it's really difficult to balance in Borderlands, in the Borderlands series, because how do you base the dot damage on a weapon? How do you do that? Is it based off the damage of the weapon? Okay, so now how fast does that weapon fire? Is it like the Hellfire, where it fires relatively quickly as an SMG? Or is it like the Infection, where you shoot a couple times per second because it's a pistol? And your goal isn't to just freaking mag dump into the enemy. Okay, so once you've made that determination, how much damage is that dot gonna do? Because it doesn't stack. How do you get the damage to scale? You have to make that dot damage really freaking high for it to be competitive in the speed killing scene, at least. Now, for ammo conservation, this is a really good mechanic, especially with an item like this. If I went in with the sole goal of getting through this with the least amount of shots fired, I could probably, well, not least amount of shots fired, but least amount of ammo consumed per money. This weapon takes the cake so far out of all of my runs, but I decided to shoot a lot more than I needed to make the run go a little bit faster, because I didn't feel like sitting you guys through a 47-minute video of me finding the sweet spots of all the locations that I can group up like 6 or 7 guys and dot all of them at a time. That it's... But I have a lot of gripes with dot in this game, and it's not just the damage value not being good, because in some cases it is kinda good. I mean, with the Chain Lightning, it's really good. The Chain Lightning's dot, spectacular. The Lightning Bolt's dot, pretty good, especially for being grenades. Like, the Chain Lightning's mostly really good because of how many targets it can hit per grenade, making it really effective as a dot weapon, in comparison to just being a damage weapon. However, the dot on a single target isn't as good. I mean, you're getting that double impact by hitting the ground, getting the splash, and then hitting the target with the actual chain part of it. So you're getting a lot of impact damage out of that segment, and then the dot is applying. It takes time, and that's the whole thing with dot. Dot damage takes time. That's like the whole shtick of it, right? Damage over time. But that's not exactly something that people really care about in Borderlands 2. A lot of the times I see people like, oh, how fast can it kill an enemy? I could care less how fast something kills an enemy, as long as it's effective. Which, effective to me is a very, well, it's a very subjective term when it comes to these kinds of things. Some people say effectiveness is how fast it can kill an enemy. Some people say it is the ammo ratio that you spend on killing that enemy. Some people say that it is just, does the weapon feel effective? So, defining that, for me, it's a lot more of, can it clear content? And is it within a reasonable time frame? It doesn't have to be a good time frame, it has to be reasonable. And is it really good at ammo conservation? Because that's one of the things I really care about in Borderlands 2, is ammo conservation. A lot of maps give you a lot of ammo, yes. However, you're not getting ammo all of the time. I mean, there are maps that have it, there also are maps that don't. And there's also a lot of times where the chest just doesn't give you the ammo you want. even with the weighted drops. Sometimes you just didn't hit the threshold, or you swapped weapons poorly, and all of a sudden it no longer actually counts. And it's like, well, there goes the weighting of my ammo, and I didn't realize that I messed it up. So ammo conservation is very much a big thing for me when playing Borderlands 2. And I've definitely grown a new appreciation for ammo conservation when doing my Veracitus runs that I've been practicing for. Because the main thing that has gotten me killed after the halfway point is spending too much SMG ammo. Because I have this idea of I want to freaking murder the boss faster, so I shoot more projectiles like a freaking idiot instead of utilizing it to balance out my HP. And then I run out and am just like, where's my ammo at, Avenger? Give me my ammo. And it's like, nope, it's not the Avenger's fault. You were the one who mismanaged your ammo. So, ammo conservation has become a bigger thing for me. Because of Veracitus. And then, honestly, I'm very much a big promoter of things that people tend to either underestimate or refuse to care about, because it isn't practical to the way that they play the game. And I understand that mentality, but it's also just like, I love this playstyle. I love DoT, and DoT being a staple, really, in Borderlands 1. One of my favorite things about the franchise. DoT damage is so much fun. Having the different status effects applied, and DoT's usually my go-to in a lot of games. Terraria, for example, DoT is awesome. Getting your first flame arrow, then getting your frost burn arrow, and then going in for your next shadow flame or your Cursed Flame, or Iker for the increased damage by reducing the enemy's defense. There's so many different debuffs, and the DoTs are my favorite, and I love doing DoT builds in most of the games that I play. Watching the enemy die without me actively shooting them is so much fun. But Borderlands 2 didn't exactly do it very well, and here's the thing. It's not because the system doesn't work. I heard a lot of people talking about how it's like, oh, well, the system isn't very good. And I as much as I also conflate the word system with poor game design and in specific aspects, it's not the system itself that is the problem. Sure, not having DoT stacking very much took away from the Borderlands 1 variant of DoT damage and what made Borderlands 1's DoT absolutely nuts. But you don't need DoT stacking for DoTs to work well in a game. Unleash the Dragon in Borderlands 3, for example. The Unleash the Dragon is freaking broken. It gets your melee scaling to apply to your DoT damage. It gets all of your damage modifiers of your melee to apply to your DoT. And having alternate ways to buff DoT damage is probably the best way to go. Maybe second best to DoT stacking, because DoT stacking is very much a unique Borderlands thing, and that was so much fun. But having alternate ways of applying increases to your DoT damage is very essential, especially when all of your other guns have ways of receiving damage bonuses from your skill trees and from your damage modifiers. Stuff like your Heart of the Ancients, you're getting that damage for that weapon type. Having a Bone of the Ancients is nice because it is increasing the overall damage of that element, sure. But it's not just applying to the DoT, and so the DoT isn't getting any spotlight. If anything, the Bone of the Ancients is just making all of the elemental weapons better in their impact damage than they are in their DoT. There's nothing else to really buff it. That's why Gaige was sort of my go-to when I started playing Borderlands 2, was because DoT Gaige is so much fun. I love DoT Gaige. Specifically Shock DoT Gaige, because of the shock implications on some of her skills, and how her stuff interacts with the freaking... I'm blanking on the skill name! Good lord. Electrical Burn. There we go, Electrical Burn. But here's the real big issue with DoT in Borderlands 2. It just wasn't thought about. There are so many instances of clear and defined lack of interest in giving a DoT value. For example, if we go to Loot Lemon, I'm just gonna click on a couple random weapons here. Let's click on the Actualizer as elemental stuff. The DoT damage on it is 478,795.2. That's 478,795.2. Okay, so we're gonna use that number as a baseline. Let's go click on another freaking weapon. Let's click on the Emperor. 478,795.2. Okay, sure, they're both SMGs. It has to be just the SMGs, right? Gunner rank. 478,795.2. Okay. So, do we have a difference here? No, not at all. None of these are dot weapons. Okay, sure. Let's click on something else that actually is, like, sort of related to elemental stuff. Where's our Thunderball Fist? Let's find the Thunderball Fist here. Thunderball Fist. Am I blind? I think I may be blind. I'm probably blind. You know what? I'm clicking on the storm. Let's see what the storm's dot damage is. Oh, wait! 478,795.4? 0.4? Oh, you gave it plus 0.2? That's it? That's all? Are you kidding me? What is this? It's a sniper rifle! It's a sniper rifle! Why? Thunderball Fist. I found the Thunderball Fist. 684,677.1. We finally found something that's slightly higher. It's a plus 200,000. Okay. The base damage on this is 1.4 million. So, you are literally just better off shooting at him than using the dot on the weapon, because the dot on the weapon it's ticking slower than you're able to deal damage. Because you're shooting at him, that impact is that 1.4 mil, and then you're getting the extra explosion from the shock explosion, so you're getting 2 instances of damage per shot, and they can line up to be faster instances than your dot damage is. And so you're just dealing more damage without ever considering the dot aspect, despite them intentionally raising the dot damage. Are you kidding me right now? Tinderbox. So let's take a look at the Tinderbox. This is a dot weapon. That's like the whole thing, right? 478,795.2. I'm going insane. This is terrible. They did not look at weapons and were like, oh, let's assign a dot value that makes sense to these weapons. No, they just took a generic number and slapped it on a whole bunch of weapons and were like, this weapon seems like it could be good for dot. Let's raise the dot damage a little bit. No. How about you, I don't know, give us a more variety of dot values so that we have more items that we can play with for these dot values, for dot damage. No? Okay. The way that dot worked in Borderlands 1 made it so much easier because it was just a multiplier and it was based on the damage of the gun, and so it was directly correlated with the amount of damage that you were dealing, giving you the stacking dot effect based on the multiplier on the gun. Holy heck, that works. You scale the dot based off of the damage of the gun. Not this, whatever this is, whatever this slap label on everything is. For all you people who say Borderlands 2 has no faults, skip you! Literally skip you! Nah. And this is definitely something that Borderlands 3 did a lot better than Borderlands 2. But not because the mechanic was all too different. I mean, the weapons were more unique in their dot values. However, there weren't very many really standouts or good ones. But they added new ways for you to interact with dot. And the first step to that was electrical burn. That was the first step of having new interactions with dot. And Krieg having all of his fire stuff in his Hellborn tree. There's so many dot-related effects, but nothing that really scales dot very well. Electrical burn does, but it's only when you hit that perfect threshold of that shock has advantage, and then once the shock, just before it depletes the shield, it procs the fire dot. Then it breaks the shield before the fire dot starts. And so now the fire dot is getting the multiplier damage from the shield, from the shock damage dealing damage to the shield, and then it's re-going through the damage formula and getting that double dipping on advantage damage, or advantage damage. That's a beautiful freaking phrase there. But you're double dipping on that ×2 or while the enemy's slagged, you're double dipping on the ×6. There's some bull like that. I don't remember off the numbers off the top of my head. But you're getting all of these multipliers of damage for it to be okay, good, and depending on your spec, it can be good. And so it's like, that's a lot that you have to do to make DoT good. DoT's viable by itself if you're using weapons that have a DoT scaling off their damage, like the Chain Lightning and the Lightning Bolt. But outside of that, I mean, like, we have the Slow Hand, which is okay. But it's like, there's very few options, not because the mechanic is bad, but because they just didn't make it unique, and they didn't give it an identity within the game. They were just like, oh, well, DoT damage was in Borderlands 1, let's just slap a whole bunch of DoT things on these weapons to have DoT in Borderlands 2. It's sad. It's really sad. However, there are a lot of good ways that you can use DoT in Borderlands 2. Again, I was talking about Chain Lightning, and DoT, when you have the weapons that are actually good with DoT, like, the Infection is okay, you have your Chain Lightning, which is pretty good, you have your Lightning Bolt, which is slightly better for single target, not as good for multi-target. So, DoT is damage over time. You are taking time to deal that damage. And you just have to wait. Be patient and don't overconsume ammo. The whole purpose of the DoT, and the DoT being better than the initial damage, is so that you don't spam your entire magazine into a target. It's so that you shoot once, you wait for the DoT to just barely run out, and you shoot again to reproc that DoT. Doing it this way allows you to retain a lot of your ammo, while just getting that passive damage off. For some weapons, it is as simple as blocking the health regen, while for others, like the Infection, it can be a source of damage. And so one of the ways that I think that we could actually utilize this practically is utilizing the Infection to apply that DoT, sort of like how you would apply Slag, where you apply Slag to get that damage buff. You're applying this DoT to prevent the natural health regen from counteracting any of the damage you're dealing, so that this way, when you pull up with an actually good weapon that you're shooting at them, then all of a sudden you are dealing good damage. And you have that inherent bonus of the 2 million DoT that's applied to the enemy already. And with DoT, you can apply one of each elemental type of the highest DoT damage. You can apply one of each elemental type. This way, you're getting as much DoT as you possibly can on that target before you start shooting at it with all the big stuff. Now, that does heavily take away your window of damage you can apply while they're slagged. So, there is that counterbalance there. But it is a way that you can use DoT. And it is viable. I would definitely argue it is viable. I've gotten through OP10 peak with a shock DoT Gaige. I didn't even pull out a B shield for Saturn. What I did was I cried about it and freaking shot a Hive because Saturn's immune to DoT and Slag. But I didn't B shield my way through that. I Hive shot at freaking. I Hive shot and just prayed. After a while, it got through. But that's another thing. Why is a boss immune to one of the most difficult effects to utilize in the game? Why? Is DoT simply here just to prevent health regen? Is that its whole purpose in the game? Which, if that is the case, then that's pretty sad. But there is functionality to DoT and a way to use it. It's just difficult to actually get around to using it like that. Alright, so now that I'm done ranting about DoT, I have a slightly more important topic I want to touch on. In the last video, in the description, I talked about how I am working on a video covering the privacy policy of the new privacy policy for Take-Two that recently was put onto the Borderlands games and all of their other IPs too. But being a Borderlands content creator, I want to specifically talk about the Borderlands side of it first. After that, if I make another side video covering how it could affect all the other games, that'd be cool. And that's only if you guys want that kind of thing. I would love to talk about these topics a lot, because this is my realm of expertise. The privacy and internet connection and stuff like that. But these videos take a long time to make, so I'd probably only get like one out a month at most, just simply because of all the research that I have to do for giving you the most accurate information relating to their specific impact on these games. But when it comes to Borderlands, I want to touch on a couple things that I've heard a lot in the community, and some of the stuff that I believed at first when I was first researching the stuff with Hellfire. And huge shout out to Hellfire and Starkiller. Hellfire helped me brainstorm the title for the next privacy policy video, and he is really the only reason why I even decided to start making that video. Because I originally was going to have it as a side tangent like this in a challenge build video, but he saw my comment and took initiative with it, and so I very much appreciate the interest in the topic, and it's very inspiring to me that to see somebody else who's a bit larger than me, quite a bit larger than me on YouTube, take an interest in a topic that I'm interested in like this. But there's one topic that I want to talk about relating to the privacy policy right now, and this could help explain why it takes a long time to talk about these things, or to research and understand these. There's one argument that I've seen a lot of it. Hey, the terms of service applies to all of the games under this company, they undertake to. So it's not that all of these things are specifically written for Borderlands or for Gearbox. And something that I would like to talk about here is that's not exactly true. If you take a look at the Embracer Group, during the time frame that Gearbox was under the Embracer Group, they had their own terms of service. They didn't have one that was written by Embracer Group for Embracer Group for them to use. They weren't forced to utilize a terms of service via that. Now, they were required to utilize their privacy policy, to my understanding. But because I haven't seen a privacy policy under them during Embracer Group, I just have seen the Embracer Group privacy policy, and I haven't found any evidence of there being a separate privacy policy for Gearbox during the time that they were under Embracer Group. But they had a lot of the same things that people are still that people started complaining about, like the no modding, no hacking or cheating, all of the collection stuff. Well, not the collection stuff, because that was the privacy policy. You see, I need a lot of time to prep a script and write out all of these in a coherent thought, so I don't make slip-ups like that and accidentally misinform people. But it's a lot of reading these really long terms of service agreements and privacy policies and giving you a full breakdown on what they could mean, what my personal interpretation of what these things are, what the textbook definitions of things are, and giving you a breakdown on some of the more technical information, because the stuff when it comes to privacy policy that I'm going to be talking about in my video is stuff like IP address, what is an IP address, why it matters, and how you can protect yourself from unnecessary collection methods via a IP address. When it comes to the terms of service thing, though, coming back to the original conversation on that, there is a terms of service that was active during Embracer Group's ownership of Gearbox, and that had a lot of the terms of service side of things, argumentation such as the modding and some other things. Now, just because they haven't enforced it doesn't mean that they won't in the future. And I did talked to Mr. TX a little bit in his Discord about it, and I did bring up the point of a lack of enforcement means that they don't have the right to enforce it. But there is also the other side of it where if they do add a tool that permits them to enforce it, they have the argumentation of they haven't had the capability to enforce it. As such, they now can enforce it. And so there is the possibility of that. Would they? Probably not. Although there is this push for co-op, for a massive co-op overhaul in Borderlands 4. So I would look out. I would be optimistically cautious and watch for a anti-cheat potentially popping up with Borderlands 4. And I would read into what that anti-cheat is. I'm not saying that it is highly likely that there will be one. I'm saying that because of the co-op focus, there is there is a higher chance than there was before of there being one. Is there one? I'm still going to say probably not. I'm still going to say probably not. But that's also me being an optimist. I highly doubt that there's going to be one. But they have clauses in their terms of service that permit them to enforce this stuff if they do add a anti-cheat of some kind in the future. And honestly, if that's the way that they take Borderlands, I'm not playing the games. If they try and enforce a kernel level anti-cheat, I'm not touching it. Not in a million years. I will just not play Borderlands 4. I will not purchase it if there is a kernel level anti-cheat or any of that garbage. But when it comes to the privacy side of things, there are a lot of things in the privacy policy that they aim to collect with it, and they do have we found a privacy policy that Gearbox had that was in between the time frame of Embracer Group and Take-Two, that was like in that middle ground before Take-Two decided to slap their privacy policy onto the Gearbox games. I would assume there was like back-end paperwork or whatnot that had them organize it this way, but the privacy policy, it did exist, and there were a lot of things in there that they were collecting that in my opinion they shouldn't retain. It's not that they were collecting those that were an issue for some of them. The issue was retainability. And they had a specific line in there that stated that they have not and will not sell your data within the last, like, 12 months. Thank you, California, for requiring companies to talk about this in their privacy policy. But there are a lot of instances of this argument being a lot more substantive than people want to think about. And so I implore people that are skeptical to go and read the full thing for yourself and learn about what these things actually mean, and don't just go off of your impression of it. But that's all I've got for today's video. I'm gonna be releasing my full take on it at some point in the future, and this is StereoLotus77 signing off.